The historic 2008 election is over. With a campaign that ran nearly 2 years, there were a lot of promises made, from education to foreign policy and the economy. Up next on Campus Conversations, we'll look ahead to the issues and the hurdles the Obama administration faces. Welcome to Campus Conversations. I'm Fritzi Bodenheimer.
And I'm Marcus Rosano. After nearly 2 years of campaigning, the Obama administration has laid out its plans to address the issues. Will they follow through, and what hurdles might they face? Montgomery College's political science faculty members, Dr. Aram Hassami, Professor Carl Smith, and Dr. Joe Thompson, join us for this discussion about what we can expect.
Professor Thompson, I'm going to start with you. This was a historic election in so many ways, obviously in terms of the race of the new occupant of the White House, but in many other ways too. Talk about that for a little bit.
Well, I think the race is the reason. I think beyond just the fact that it was the first African-American candidate, I think it was a race that we saw a redefinition of the voters. We now have the Republican Party kind of slipping into a minority party, into a rural Appalachian party. But I want to get back to the race thing because that was hugely important. And America will be minority majority by 2050. And an African-American president was inevitable. As is a female president, a Hispanic president, any other group in America, it's inevitable. It came sooner than I thought it would, and I think for 4 basic reasons. The first is that we have an extraordinary candidate. Barack Obama is a remarkable man. Secondly, he ran an almost perfect campaign. I can think of 1 or 2 slip-ups. Thirdly, his opponent ran an atrocious campaign. And that's opinion, but it's not only mine.
And the rest of it is fact, right?
Yeah, and the other ones that's fact. And fourthly, he's following a president who is, by most measures, considered a pretty big failure.
Can I pick up on that point?
Absolutely.
Because I think that was a major factor in the election. It was a referendum on the last 8 years of the Bush and Cheney administration, and I think that a lot of people looked at the policies were there and rejected a lot of those things, and I think Obama's campaign did a very good job of making the point of saying, well, if you're going to vote for McCain, you're going to get more of those same policies. He may be a nice guy, he certainly is a national hero, but you're going to get more of those same policies, and a lot of people looked at that, especially in light of the economic crisis, and said, we don't need more of that.
And that was only the 4th big failing under the Bush administration. You could look at the Katrina, you could look at the war in Iraq, whether or not you think it was a good or a bad idea, it wasn't executed properly. And you could look at 9/11 and suggest that that we had let our guard down, or the reaction to 9/11 wasn't a unifying thing. Good presidents bring the country together during a crisis, and President Bush failed in that regard.
Let's keep on that note. Talk about the embracing the entire world has had over Barack Obama. You can say that it was an indictment of the George Bush administration, but talk about a little bit of how the world is going to embrace this man, our next president, and how that's going to, not just here, but all over the world.
And if I could jump in there too, is there a risk that there's so much joy and excitement about it that there's some risk for a backlash or failure?
The expectations are sky high.
Sure.
Let me just start. I disagree with my colleagues, but that put aside.
Really?
I always disagree. Well, if it's about race, then the indictment on Bush would have made it that anybody could have won.
Sure.
But the question is not whether Obama was a good campaigner or not. I think the issue certainly is conservatism and the way it has been defined by the conservative parties and the Bush administration going to the right or the base of the party as opposed to the more of the intellectual aspect of the conservative party. Having said that, let me address the question of Obama's historic election. To the rest of the world, this is not just a black man getting elected. To the rest of the world, is democracy in action. America is not just about the Republican or the Democrats. To me, America is about the idea of what can be done, the new world. It is about the land of opportunity. The Europeans may talk about equality and social justice. We actually do it. And the election was about that. And that's why from Pakistan to Afghanistan to Egypt to Iran, everybody thinks Kenya, they think the world is going to be a different place because it reaffirms their idea that things are possible in America. And I don't think it was inevitable that's what's going to happen. I think that that's understatement. And I think that what it did, it changed the way the world looked at America. Not because of Obama per se, but because the mentality of the Americans, that they're pragmatists, they bring about change. It would be just like a descendant of a Turkish descent would win an election and become a chancellor of Germany, or a prime minister, an Indian descent will become a prime minister of England. That's not going to happen to even the best of the Algerian in France descent. So that's the idea of affirming the idea of hope that America is a different place, and therefore it makes a difference.
So as a country, our approval rating just went up.
Very good, without anything else.
It always was high. We are this shining city on the hill. And we let the world down. And they might look at us sometime and think we're a bit naive about how idealistic we are, but they like that about us. We're that big, bumbling, naive country, and we did it right this time, and we restored that initial promise. And they like us for that. They want us to do that.
I want to address this expectation question, if you don't mind. I don't think it's fair to Obama. Because you talk to everyone around the world and they think the world is going to be a different place, that we're not going to cross the border in Pakistan and there won't be any carpet bombing, and they think there won't be any collateral damage. They think we're going to pull out of Iraq. They think relationship with Iran would be better. They think Putin is going to take his aggressive aggression someplace else.
It's all supposed to happen tomorrow.
Not just tomorrow, but even to put that, not to mention, you talked about challenges. Not to mention, of course, the economy, the two wars, but the monetary system in the entire world. Not to mention, of course, the terrorist issue, with Bin Laden's new messages. This is a tall order. And campaigning is one thing. Doing day-to-day political is totally different story.